but you can wholesale any kind of asset.
Right.
You can wholesale businesses. Like
True.
wholesaling is such a broad term, and like what I do can apply to so many different industries and like niches within the real estate market. But for me, it's going to be your traditional single family or small multifamily fix and flip.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cashflow podcast, where we talk about turning properties into profits. I'm your host, Jason Yoss. I'm here today with my guest, Alex Bradley. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, brother. So I want to dive right into it. We talked a lot about family, okay? And as a wholesaler, how did you get started in this space, and how did family play a part in getting you going?
I got into wholesaling out of desperation. I graduated college in 2017, and at that time my daughter was 10 months old, so I was the sole provider for a family of 3. And then fast forward a year, my wife was pregnant again. Son was going to be due in December 2018. And so I was looking at, going to be sole provider for a family of 4. And I was already working a full-time job, plus part-time at a restaurant, plus I had a marketing internship. Like, I was working 7 days a week, Monday through Friday. I'd be at work at 6 a.m., getting home at 11 p.m. from the restaurant.
Grinding. Grinding.
Yeah, like I needed an escape. I needed something, side hustle to be able to get me out of that literal rat race.
With 2 kids and a wife under 21, you were looking for something. How'd you find wholesaling? How was that the method that turned everything for you?
It wasn't the first thing we tried, and we had always been entrepreneurial. Like my wife and I, we were slanging mattresses at the swap meet in college.
Love it.
We had tried Amazon FBA. I had hired a person to like run a drop shipping company for me for a little bit. Just a bunch of things that flopped. We tried affiliate marketing, like running a blog and stuff like that. And so it was just all of these things that flopped. And I had found wholesaling through a blog of all places called Side Hustle Nation that I was following. And I got an email, and this guy was just talking about what wholesaling is and broke it down. And I was like, that sounds cool. And so at the time when I first heard about it, it was late summer 2018, before my son was born. And I didn't have time to do anything about it, but it's really sparked an interest. And I spent the next 6 months just, consuming content. And then when my son was born, I had 90 days to make something happen. We got really, really lucky. We got our first deal within the first couple of weeks of, door knocking with our 3-week-old son in our arms. So we got really lucky.
What a marketing play there. Door knocking.
I was leveraging the kid. Like, look
son
at this
in
kid.
Arms, absolutely.
Yeah. So
no one was going to say no to that. Absolutely.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, people said no, but they weren't screaming at us like, get off my yard, pulling out the guns and stuff like that. So that was the first thing that really stuck. And it even took a long time to take off and to fully stick. Okay. We only did a few deals our first couple of years on the side before we went full time into it. And then even that, our first year full time was a disaster.
When you say disaster and getting in, was there, besides a blog, was there mentorship involved? Did you buy a course? Is there anything that helped make that road easier, or was it just like, hey, we went running and gunning?
I found a couple mentors along the way. Like right in the beginning, one of the first things that I did was trying to build my cash buyers list. Mm-hmm. And we were calling pre-foreclosures here in San Diego. So I wanted some buyers in San Diego that I knew if I locked up a deal, I could sell it to them. And so I cold called buyers, found them on Craigslist, found them on Facebook. And I had a couple guys that were really just helpful. I'd get an appointment, they'd come along on the appointment, and I'd kind of had that person that was, professional. Like they knew, this person knew what they were doing, and I was like early 20s, and so I've always looked young, so I probably looked like a 16-year-old, walking in these people's houses trying to buy it. And so that was helpful. They weren't like full-blown mentors, but they definitely helped me get those first few appointments, lock up a couple of deals. They were, I knew I had somebody to sell to.
You had somebody there to help sanity check. You're getting into the business. It's wholesaling. You've got a good idea what you want to do, but you've got a little bit of a sounding board to help you get through those first couple.
Yeah.
Huge.
Exactly.
And again, with all this circling around, did you come up with a philosophy on how you were going to approach this? Is there a real estate philosophy or what you're telling to these prospective clients when you're getting in their door?
I was, watching videos on YouTube. Everybody has a script that you can follow. So I didn't follow those like to the T, but I knew the goal. I needed to go in there and talk to these people and figure out, what is their pain and try to come up with a solution for them. We need to trade kind of their pain and providing a solution for obviously like equity. We're looking for a discount in these distressed properties.
Let's talk about that. So not a lot of people know about wholesaling. I didn't know a lot about wholesaling either. I've been doing this 20 years. This is not my niche, but you're an industry expert in it. Tell me about wholesaling and give me a little bit of that extra. We talked about like the acquisition side and the disposition side.
Sure. So wholesaling, like in its simplest form, is just sourcing off-market deals for investors. When people ask me like what I do and they aren't in real estate, that's what I tell them. I source deals. But basically, the way that the business model works is, if you have a house that you want to sell, I'm looking at it and it's distressed, it needs work, I'm trying to get it for a discount. I want to get that property under contract with you. So we have a purchase agreement. I'm going to buy that property from you. And, let's say I'm able to get it under contract for $500,000. My goal then is to find a buyer that's willing to pay really anything more than that, whether it's 505, 525, 550, the margin can vary a lot, especially today. And so I'm going to go out there, and once I have that property under contract, I'm going to send it to my list of buyers that I know are looking for those types of deals, mark it up, and I will do an assignment contract to the buyer. And so instead of me purchasing that property, the assignment contract allows them to take my position in the underlying purchase agreement with the seller. They close on it. Instead, let's say, I was able to get them at 520. I'll make that $20K spread. That would be my assignment fee for the wholesale deal.
Nice. So you're basically substituting someone in for yourself when you get a property. Yeah. Now, again, you told me there are two sides of this and I didn't even realize it. So there's an acquisition side. There's a ton of work that goes in on this side, but there's also a disposition side. Talking about the two sides of the coin and how difficult it might be or what your strategies are on both sides.
Yeah, I do think it's important to run a successful wholesaling business these days in today's market with how competitive wholesaling is, because it's become a really big industry of its own, is to split it up. And most companies are going to have an acquisitions department and a dispositions department. Like you mentioned, acquisitions, they're the ones that are out there hunting for deals. Okay. They're the ones that are cold calling 24/7, running marketing campaigns and talking to sellers. That's the big important part. They're the ones that are talking to sellers and negotiating and trying to get those deals under contract. And then the dispositions side of the business, they're the ones that are marketing those deals once they're under contract and finding the buyers for them.
And so you need clients on both sides. You need someone you need to find the deal, but you also need to have a list of people to be able to sell the deal to as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you ever get in that situation where it gets a little sweaty? Like, I got this deal and I haven't been able to offload it yet?
That's definitely a problem for sure. Yeah, I mean, because a lot of times when you're locking up these deals, you're building in like a contingency period, an inspection period, and that's your time to find the buyer. So sometimes you get 7 days, sometimes you get 30, depending on how good you are at negotiating. And so you're using that time to find the buyer. And if you cancel before then, you'll get your EMD back. So it's not really like, yes, that's stressful, but you're protected. But the thing is, a lot of people that are solo operators or smaller companies, they focus on their acquisitions and then they get a deal and then they took their feet off the pedal for acquisitions because they're trying to spend the next week or so trying to sell that deal. And on the acquisition side, like, you can't do that. Like, your pipeline needs to just be constantly filled literally every single day. Otherwise, you take your foot off the gas, your pipeline's going to dry up. And then, you sell that deal, but then you spend another couple months trying to get a new deal. And so that constant like grind and turnover of leads, you constantly need to be feeding the machine. And so that's where a lot of people get stuck in being able to grow and scale, is they're trying to do both. And, they have to stop doing one to do the other. And then those are the people like me back at that time. I was only doing a couple of deals. I did 4 deals my first year, 4 deals my second year, did 40 my technically fourth, because my third year was really bad.
Right.
Year 3 was 1. but year 4 and 5 have been 40 each.
Wow. Talk to me about campaigns. I hear the term campaign thrown around all the time when it refers to wholesaling. What kind of campaigns or strategies do you use for success?
My business model is different. I just focus on Dispo now for the last 2 years. That's been my primary focus. So, I mean, traditionally though, like there's all sorts of different campaigns. So you can do cold calling, text messaging was really big, but both of those are getting harder. There's more barriers to entry because there's like new legality stuff that's coming around that.
You can't text like mad like you used to be able to do spam.
Yeah, exactly. But direct mail depends on your budget. A lot of guys are doing TV. Commercials and radio, pay-per-click, there's all the online leads that you can generate. So there's a million different ways that you can generate leads and run campaigns to, get people that are potentially interested in selling their house.
How does that differ then on the Dispo side where you've now found yourself as an expert? I know you said you were doing that with another company before. So now you're doing that out on your own. What is the key to success on the Dispo side?
On the Dispo side, there's a couple things. Relationships is huge. Like you want to make sure that you have a solid buyers list of people that would be interested in that property. You want to make sure that you have people that you can trust and that you know how to vet these buyers before you not just send them a deal. That's fine, but sending them a contract and trying to actually sell them a deal, that's important. But I think in today's market, at least for my business model, it's quantity over quality right now when it comes to number of buyers. Like I'm meeting new buyers all the time, and I do have repeat buyers, but a lot of my deals are to somebody new that I met because they got my email campaign. They got my email about the new deal.
So let's talk about the type of person that's in your network that's on the Dispo side. What's the type of buyer look like? And then I want to get into, let's talk about a deal that you've done, and so we can kind of show the audience, okay, this is what it looks like. So type of buyer first. Who's normally in your Dispo networking list?
It depends on the deal. I focus mostly on residential fix and flip. We definitely have some buy and hold investors, landlords that are looking to get some rental properties. And for me, it's like either single family or small multifamily. Right. I've got a couple of buyers out there that are looking to build, 10, 20, 30 units, but nothing too crazy above that for me personally. But you can wholesale any kind of asset. Right. You can wholesale businesses. Wholesaling is such a broad term, and what I do can apply to so many different industries sense. And niches within the real estate market. But for me, it's going to be your traditional single family or small multifamily fix and flip.
And Alex, is that just here in San Diego? I mean, the fact you said you could do wholesaling of any type of product, does that mean any type of location as well?
Yeah, within reason, I'm nationwide, but there are states that are, prohibiting wholesaling. South Carolina just announced last week that I don't think it's official. I think they went through the Senate. They still have to go through the House of Representatives in order for that to officially pass, but it looks like it's going to. So Illinois is another one where you have to be licensed. You can only do one assignment per year. Nebraska, I don't know if they have any laws, but I sent out a deal in Nebraska a couple years ago, and their board of realtors hit me with a cease and desist and said, hey, you can't do that here. So there's a couple of states where you're just not allowed to do deals at. But I mean, there's still plenty of states.
But the Southwest, California, Arizona, Nevada, it's doing well over here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Love it. Let's talk about a deal. It could be your best. It could be your worst. I mean, I want to hear about a deal. I want our audience to know kind of how it works, what it looks like.
Sure. I can tell you about, I guess, the coolest one, the biggest one that I've done this year.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk. Where was it? When did it start? And kind of how'd you find it?
Okay. It was here in San Diego, and I wholesale nationwide. I do all of California, but this one was in San Diego, in Linda Vista. The way that I got it, so I don't do any direct-to-seller acquisitions anymore. I do acquisitions every day, but my acquisitions is all B2B. Right. All of my deals come from other wholesalers, real estate agents, and flippers. This deal came from a flipper who was actually a past buyer of mine. I had sold him a property last year, and he did really well on it. And he flips, he does some development, and this particular deal, he got under contract in Linda Vista. It was a teeny little house on a big lot. That's what everybody's dream of is here in San Diego. And the house was dilapidated, needed everything. So he got a really good deal because he was buying it at the value of that house. And but we knew that there was potential to develop, so we were looking around and finding properties that have been developed in the area. We found one down the street that was a single family house. They remodeled it, and they just got permits for 4 units in the back. And I think they sold it for over $1 million. I can't remember if it was 1.1 or 1.4. So that right off the bat, we're like, wow, like we've got something good here. And this guy called me. Let me back up. The way that I got this deal is he called me because he knew that I wholesaled. He knew that I did dispo, and he said, hey, I got this deal. I want you to help me sell it. That's how I got it.
Got it. Cool. And that's the power of you having this real estate network of investors and buyers on your dispo side. He knew that you could help him perform the dispo, something he might not have been able to do. So he calls you, he's got this property. You start, scoping out like what could it be worth. You found one down the street, similar type of property, a little house, big lot that had just got permitted for multifamily. How did it go from there?
From there, he had to work out a couple things with the trust, so it took a couple weeks. But basically, once he was ready to go, he got a survey on it for this one, cleaned out a tree in the backyard, and then we started marketing the property. So we did an email campaign to our buyers. We sent it to everybody in San Diego, and immediately, we started getting some interest. We priced it high, though, right off the jump. We were kind of shooting for the moon on this one because we knew it was a deal. And we knew just because of what it was, people would be interested and at least inquire about it. But right off the jump, we were priced a little high. And so we didn't have, anyone that was, biting to sign a contract right off the bat.
Interest, but nobody going here it is, here's your money.
Yeah, exactly. So we did a price reduction. We called everybody back, let them know hey, this is where we're at now. And we did that kind of based on the feedback we were getting. Mm-hmm. I always try to find out if someone's not interested, okay, where do you need to be at for this to be a deal for you? I ask every single person that looks at one of my deals. And so we reduced it a little bit. But yeah, long story short, he had it under contract for $565. This one was a double close. So he closed on it, and I brought in a buyer at, I think it was $845 was the total price. Yeah. So
nice. What was the total time from when you guys first grabbed it to when you closed it up?
A month. And that's including everything. It was a quick close.
Is there pass go criteria? What were you seeing that made people jump at it? Or what was the one or two things that you had to be there for it to get that kind of value and reaction? We had a survey. People knew, based on that lot. I don't remember what the zoning was on that one, but everybody knows in San Diego, it's encouraged. The city wants you to build. Right. They're making it so everyone can build. So I think it was just one of those deals where, if you have flipped a house, if you've been in real estate, you're in San Diego, you see it and you just know. Yeah. We didn't really have to do too much convincing. Were there hurdles in this specific, and if not in this specific deal, what is the number one or number two hurdles you see when you're inside a wholesale deal like this?
The number one hurdle is getting good deals. There's a million deals out there right now, but maybe 10% of them are good deals. Wow. And so that's the hardest part. I'm doing acquisitions every day, talking to other people that are bringing me deals, and it's my job to underwrite them, see if it makes sense to put it out there, run a campaign on it, and then sell the deal. And so, most of them, even some that look like they're, could be promising, you find out that there's some hair on it and it just doesn't really make sense. Right now, I found that buyers are underwriting tighter. If there's something weird on it, if there's a power line that's going through it, if it's on a busy road, if all the things that buyers don't like, the end buyer is being more picky right now. So the flipper is going to be more picky versus a couple years ago, you could sell anything, for so much over ask because it just is reactory towards what's happening on the retail market. Absolutely. A couple years ago, you put a listing on the market, you could have become a real estate agent yesterday, and you're going to sell that house for $100,000 over asking. So when we had wholesale deals, it was kind of the same thing. Now it's a little bit harder. Buyers are pickier, so flippers are underwriting harder, and that's just a result of.
Is that your biggest thing when you're looking at a deal and you're underwriting it? What is that one thing you're looking at? Is it Is there value add? Is it equity? Is it, hey, it has to have, not have that hair on it, that one?
It's equity because, I mean, even hairy deals, like if you have a big enough spread on it, like it's worth it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like if you can get something at 40, 50% on the dollar, like it doesn't matter if it's on a busy road, like you've got room on it. So it's just equity, you know, like when I'm just like quickly underwriting something, I will pull it up on Zillow and Redfin. I'll look at comps and I'm just trying to, if someone sends me a deal and the asking price is around 70% of the ARV, which is the after repair value, then there's a good chance we can move it.
70%. So if we're above 70%, it's 80%, you're basically like, hey, this is not for me. This is not for my network of buyers.
It depends. Yeah, it's tough. It depends. Like, you know, if it's in a really good area, there's no hair on it. It's just a tighter deal. You know, maybe it just needs like cosmetic updates and it's a cleaner rehab. Then yeah, like we're gonna give it a shot. We'll do an email campaign on it and see if we can get some buyers. But I get people sending me deals all the time that it's like, you know, Zillow says 700K and they're saying, you know, we want 725 for this. I'm like, it's not a deal. You know,
not a deal.
And they're like, oh, but like if you do the price per square foot, like it's really worth $1 million. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're doing the price per square foot off of this 500 square foot house, and you're saying, well, this one's worth so much more because it's 3,500 square feet. It's like if nothing is sold for $1 million, it's not worth $1 million.
And I love that feedback on the biggest challenges, especially with that fact that you said there's so much competition right now in San Diego, and it makes sense because San Diego is 100,000 units under market and needed homes or dwellings for residents. So.
And we had 3 years or so of like rapid appreciation.
Runaway appreciation.
And so like it hasn't really hit the homeowners. Like the like reality hasn't trickled down to the homeowner yet. And so they already just are overvaluing their property, you know, versus like, you know, if we had a crash, you know, everybody in the world knows like, okay, the real estate prices are down now. Right. And, you know, maybe people are going to be more reasonable. But right now they're unreasonable because they're like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm sitting on a gold mine. I've got a house in San Diego. It doesn't matter if it's collapsing on itself. It must be worth $1 million.
Add in the fact that there's a huge swath of the market that has below 4% interest rates on their home. And they're like, I'll be fine. I'll be able to weather it. So it resonates with me how you describe that competition in the market. Let's talk about, as we wrap this up, Alex, if you had a chance to go back and do it over again, would you enter the market in this manner? Would you be a wholesaler? And long term, are you going to stay in this niche, or is there more to come?
I think I'll always stay in the the world of finding deals, providing deals. You know, my wife and I, we are finally in a financial position where we can start buying some on our own, whether that's rentals or flips or doing some development plays with partners that we have. So I think we'll always be finding deals, and we're going to find a way to monetize those. I've been wholesaling for so long, like it's almost natural. Like, all right, I'm either going to buy this or I'm going to find someone to buy it.
Right.
And like, why?
Now let a good deal pass up.
Why turn down that? You know, it's like, and when you've been in the game for a while, for me, it's been 5 years, not a crazy amount of time, but as it goes, like, it's not a crazy amount of time, but I already just have people sending me deals. Like I spend $0 on acquisitions because they just come in. People just call me. So I just imagine another 5, 10, 15 years, like that's just going to grow and grow and grow.
100 deals is a lot of deals. Whether it took 5 years or 50 years, it's a lot of deals. So obviously you cut your teeth. And it makes sense. Younger Alex, do you do this route again?
I wish that if I could do it again, I wouldn't start the way that I started, trying to do acquisitions and dispositions. You know, I found my love in dispositions. I love B2B, and I would have just started there. You know, I would.
One piece of advice for the young entrepreneur getting into real estate. What's the one thing?
A lot of people get into wholesaling first. So I love that because a lot of people believe that to get in, you have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to like build up your acquisitions business when you could just spend time networking. You know, if you spend half your day trying to do networking, like doing acquisitions the way that I do it, which is just talking to other people in the industry, other wholesalers and agents. And then you spend your other half of the time finding buyers, and then you just are that man in the middle connecting deals. Like you can get deals faster for one and without, going broke.
I love it. I love it. Alex, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah.
For everybody else, thanks for tuning into Cashflow, the podcast where we talk about turning properties into profits. Stay tuned. We'll see you next week.